인비시블 에이스? 에이스 팔렛에 대한 이야기인가? 한 발도 안 쏘고 적을 격추시켰다.
Piloted by Furio Nicolo Dollio. His wingman, Ennio Tarantola, later remembered that time froze for him at that moment, and fragments of intel and reports started to make sense. In May and June of 1942, the Italians downed at least a dozen Spitfires over Malta. But then, a mysterious new pilot appeared, and the enemies around them started exploding or falling apart mid-air, seemingly with no external force applied. Bombers, recons, fighters, none could escape them. They would always send someone down to the ground, basically every day. A bounty was put out, but their Spitfire would face them head-on every time, after which an Italian or a German fighter would blow up because, "Dodge, Furio," Tarantola shouted. His mind suddenly pierced with a terrifying realization and attempted to dodge himself. A hit, a hot flush of pain in the arm, air whooshing in through the shattered canopy. It was a single bullet and an indirect hit. The leader's fighter, however, never had the time to realize what was going on and exploded into a huge cloud of tiny debris. Wounded, Tarantola could not continue the battle, so he turned his Fulgurite towards Sicily and began a high-speed descent. He was shaken by the death of his commander and friend and shared a discovery with his comrades. That Spitfire pilot wasn't just an excellent flyer and a fantastic sniper. They never used tracers. That's why no one could understand why Italian aircraft were exploding mid-air left and right. But now that the mystery's been uncovered, they could be tracked down and taken out. Besides, intelligence had already identified the pilot. It was Sergeant George Burling. This meant that Tarantola had to head back as soon as his wounds healed. He simply had to find and defeat that Canadian and avenge his commander. On October 11th, 1942, Tarantola caught a Spitfire over the Mediterranean. Unfortunately, it wasn't the one he wanted. He even felt a bit awkward shooting at an obviously confused British rookie. 3 days later, an opportunity finally presented itself. A new massive raid on Malta was planned, and Tarantola was part of the fighter escort. More than 40 Junkers 88s and SM-79s, almost 60 Messerschmitts and Fulgures. The British would surely scramble an interceptor sortie, and that would be the best time. He could recognize Burling by his reckless flying and sniper fire, get closer to him, and finish him off. It almost went according to plan. The battle was furious. The British, Italian, and German aircraft formed a giant jumble, while the radio channels were filled with shouting and curses. Tarantola shot one Spitfire that lost its guard and flew into the sights, but generally kept aside trying to spot his main target. And that became his own undoing. Another invisible volley came from God knows where, and 4 cannons shot through the Fulgure's wings and engine. Motor oil sprinkled all over his canopy. The Italian cried out of frustration and again had to flee towards Sicily, hoping that his engine held long enough. Who was that unexpected long-range sniper?
장거리 저격수 누구였을까?
Tarantola never flew above Malta again. He was transferred to Sardinia.
이게 그 2차 대전 에이스 파일럿들 보면 이게 분류가 나뉘는데 그 중에 샷이 엄청 좋은 사람도 있어요. 샷이 샷발. 뭐 선회를 잘하거나 공중전을 잘하는데 여러 가지 요소가 있는데